Welcome to the latest Wax Ecstatic pack break, and we've got a beauty for you today. No, not just the wax pack artwork, which is a beauty, but 1977 Topps, one of my favorite sets, mostly because 1977, the year I was born in. So even though I was a tad bit young in October of 1977, when I was born, to go out to the store and open up a pack of these cards, as I got older and started collecting more vintage cards, even when I was a teenager, I gravitated towards 77 because that was the year I was born in. That was also the year that the Toronto Blue Jays were born in. That was my favorite team as a kid. And I've always had this affinity to the set, even though it's not the most popular set for collectors from the 1970s. You could argue that 75, 76, 71, there were several other sets in the 70s that you could state had better rookies or better design or have more value. 77 is often overlooked, although I think it is part of a really good stretch of cards that Topps created from the mid to late 70s, and certainly you shouldn't overlook it. And we're not going to overlook this pack here, the 10-card pack from 1977, which we purchased thanks to contributions from our listeners. So we appreciate that, and we are going to talk a little more about this pack and the cards we find it, plus some interesting stories about airbrushed expansion players. Yeah, one of our listeners suggested we talk about some of the airbrushed cards for the various Seattle Mariners and Toronto Blue Jays, and I pulled some from my personal collection. We'll see if we get any out of this pack here. And we'll talk a little bit about the process of trying to put together team cards in 1977 for expansion teams, teams that were selected in November of 1976, when the 1977 card set went out in February. And this was the first set in Topps history where an expansion team was created prior to a one-series set. That was the bonus of the multiple series sets that Topps released in 1961, 62, and 69. You would have a lot of airbrushed cards in the earlier sets, or earlier series, I should say, but then as the season went on and the higher number series were coming out, you could actually have photographs from the new team's spring training, and you could see the players in their new team uniforms. So without further ado, let's open up this pack of 1977 Topps. As we are greeted by, look at that. No, not the gum. A Hall of Famer right off the bat. Jim Palmer. Look at that old Orioles jersey. That is a beaut. And of course, what's old is new again. A lot of these retro jerseys are coming back. And the orange, even though the photography was a little dark, and we'll talk a little bit about photography quality in this program as well, because it does play into the airbrushing conversation. The orange jersey and the orange hat. Forget about the Orioles having the orange front of the hat back in 1976. It just pops right off that dark background. Now, before I look for other cards here, 660 card set. A couple of key cards in this set include the rookie cards for Dale Murphy and Andre Dawson, several other big rookies too. All right, so we got Jim Palmer right off the bat, followed by Jerry Augustine, who was proclaimed to be a big rookie, Topps All-Star rookie. Didn't quite work out for him. Ollie Brown looking extremely pissed off at the world there with the Philadelphia Phillies. Butch Metzger of the Padres, and again, the colors just popping off the background of Jack Murphy Stadium here. Beautiful shot there. We have a team photograph of the Bronx Zoo, the New York Yankees with Billy Martin as your manager. Now, this photograph would have been taken in 1976 and would feature the newly renovated Yankee Stadium, the original Yankee Stadium, of course. All right, Terry Harmon of the Phillies there. We've got Ken Boswell of the Astros. Great shot of the bicentennial patch that was worn by the Stros in the 1976 season. Tommy Davis of the Kansas City Royals. Looks like he's pondering something serious there. Looks like we've got a couple more Orioles here. Doug DeCinces and Paul Blair, very underrated outfielder for that time. And that's it for the pack here. And you can see with the Paul Blair card, one of the problems that you often had in 1977 Topps, and not just 77, but a lot of the mid-70s cards, off-centering. And you can see this card is not only off-center, but you have a printing error here because of the off-centering. In fact, it looks like, let me pull out a Phillies card here. Yeah, and speaking of printing errors, so here's the Ollie Brown card with a little bit of ink smudging going on there. But it looks like perhaps there was a Phillies card or something of that nature lined up here. So you have a printing error, it's off-center, and you can see it on the back too. The Blair card is way off-center. That does not detract, however, from the great Jim Palmer card that you have here. You know, a Yankees card. Of course, the Yankees would win their first of 2 consecutive World Series in 1977. And just a great collection of wonderful cards from the 1977 pack. Now, again, Topps packs for the general public feature 10 cards. So a lot of times people who normally don't buy vintage, they pick up these older packs and they're wondering, hey, where are the cards at? Well, Topps didn't settle in to a more is better mode until the late 70s, when they knew competition would be coming around the corner. And of course, by 1981, they started putting 15 cards in a pack, blossomed in 1987 to 17 cards in a pack. But back in the 70s, when they were still the only game in town, despite fighting court battles with Fleer during this time, 10 cards was enough. And you certainly got your money's worth. Some great pictures there, and again, a Hall of Famer in Jim Palmer right on the top. And thankfully, it doesn't look like any kind of wax stain or ink stains. Doesn't look like any damage to this card here, which is nice. You never know when you have these old cards, when this dirty deed comes in and messes up your fun, or a wax stain on the back. So, a fun pack. We'll talk about some of these cards. We'll talk about the airbrushed cards of the Blue Jays and Mariners from 1977. And that is happening in our next podcast, which will be released on Friday, April the 12th at noon Eastern. And again, my thanks to our listeners for providing the financial donations, the tips, if you will, to purchase this and open this up and talk about some great memories from 1977. So our next podcast coming your way April 12th. That's tomorrow, noon Eastern. I'm Matt Sammon. Thanks again for watching and for listening to Wax Ecstatic.